The room fell silent as the words cut through the air like a blade. "We're letting you go, Mia." The voice was cold, calculated, and delivered with an unsettling calmness that made her stomach churn. Every pair of eyes in the conference room turned to stare at her, some curious, others pitying, but none kind. Mia stood frozen, her fingers gripping the edge of the table for support as if it might anchor her to reality. Her heart thudded so loudly she swore everyone could hear it. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. She had walked into work that morning expecting another ordinary day, a few meetings, some emails, maybe even a celebratory coffee run after landing their latest client account. Instead, she found herself cornered in front of her colleagues, blindsided by betrayal disguised as professionalism. The CEO's polished smile didn't reach his eyes as he continued speaking, listing off vague reasons about restructuring and performance metrics. But Mia knew better. This wasn't about restructuring or metrics, it was personal. Her mind raced back to the events leading up to this moment, the late nights spent perfecting pitches, the weekends sacrificed for deadlines, the loyalty she'd poured into this company without hesitation. And now, they were discarding her like yesterday's news, treating her like just another line item on a spreadsheet. Worse still, they chose to do it publicly, stripping away not only her job but also any shred of dignity she might have clung to. Mia swallowed hard, forcing herself to stay composed despite the storm brewing inside her chest. She glanced around the room, searching for allies, or at least someone who would meet her gaze, but no one dared look directly at her. Co-workers shifted uncomfortably in their seats, pretending to focus intently on their laptops or scribbling meaningless notes onto pads of paper. Even Rachel, who had been her closest confidant since day one, avoided eye contact altogether. It stung more than Mia cared to admit. As the CEO wrapped up his rehearsed speech, offering platitudes about wishing her well in her future endeavors, Mia finally found her voice. "If there's nothing else," she said evenly, though every word felt like sandpaper scraping against her throat, "I'll gather my things." Without waiting for a response, she turned on her heel and strode out of the room, head held high despite the tremor threatening to overtake her legs. The hallway outside offered little relief. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows across the sterile walls. Each step toward her desk felt heavier than the last, each breath shallower. People passed by, whispering behind cupped hands, their words muffled yet unmistakable. Fired. Publicly humiliated. Just like that. As if years of dedication counted for nothing. Back at her workstation, Mia methodically began packing her belongings into a cardboard box. A framed photo of her parents caught her eye, and she hesitated before slipping it carefully into the pile. The familiar faces brought both comfort and anger. They had always believed in her, supported her dreams, encouraged her to chase success. Now what? What would she tell them when they asked how her day went? Her phone buzzed incessantly in her pocket, notifications piling up from co-workers feigning concern via text messages. Ignore. Delete. Block. She didn't need empty condolences or awkward attempts at solidarity. Not now. Maybe not ever again. With each item placed into the box, memories surfaced unbidden. Celebratory dinners after big wins, heated debates over campaign strategies, laughter echoing through the office during holiday parties. All those moments seemed tainted now, overshadowed by the bitterness of today's events. How could she have been so naive? So trusting? By the time she reached the elevator, the weight of everything pressed down on her shoulders like a physical force. Colleagues lingered nearby, pretending not to watch as she waited for the doors to open. When they finally did, she stepped inside, pressing the button for the ground floor with deliberate slowness. As the doors slid shut, cutting off the prying gazes, she allowed herself a single shaky exhale. Outside, the city buzzed with life, oblivious to her turmoil. Cars honked impatiently, pedestrians hurried along sidewalks, street vendors shouted offers to passers-by. Yet none of it registered fully. Mia wandered aimlessly, clutching the box tightly against her chest as if it contained fragments of her shattered identity. Where did she belong now? Who was she without the title, the prestige, the validation she'd worked so hard to earn? Hours later, sitting alone in her dimly lit apartment, Mia stared blankly at the wall, replaying the day's events over and over in her mind. Each memory ignited fresh waves of humiliation and rage until she thought she might explode. But beneath the torrent of emotions lay something else, a flicker of resolve. They wanted to destroy her? Fine. Let them think they succeeded. But Mia wasn't done fighting, not by a long shot. She opened her laptop, fingers hovering uncertainly over the keyboard. For years, she had played by the rules, followed protocols, bent over backward to prove herself worthy. And where had that gotten her? Humiliated in front of peers, discarded without a second thought. No more. Tonight marked the beginning of something new. Something bold. Something unstoppable. Scrolling through old contacts, she started drafting emails, reaching out to former colleagues, industry insiders, anyone who owed her a favor, or who might be persuaded to listen. Word traveled fast in their world, and Mia intended to make sure hers spread far and wide. If they thought firing her was the endgame, they were dead wrong. She would ensure their company paid dearly for their cruelty, for turning her into a spectacle, for underestimating her resilience, for forgetting exactly who they were dealing with. By dawn, exhaustion tugged at her eyelids, but adrenaline kept her wired. Sleep could wait. Revenge couldn't. One name after another filled her screen, each message meticulously crafted to plant seeds of doubt, to expose cracks in their polished facade. By the time she hit send on the final email, a plan had begun to crystallize in her mind, a strategy so audacious it bordered on reckless. But recklessness suited her mood perfectly. Over the next few days, whispers rippled through the industry. Questions arose about questionable business practices, toxic workplace culture, missed opportunities masked as strategic decisions. Rumors swirled, growing louder with each retelling. At first, the company dismissed them as baseless gossip, unworthy of attention. But then came the calls, the polite yet firm inquiries from potential partners pulling out of deals, clients reconsidering contracts, investors expressing sudden concerns about ethics and transparency. Mia watched it all unfold from afar, savoring each small victory while plotting her next move. She attended networking events, charming influential figures with tales of innovation and integrity, subtly steering conversations toward the shortcomings of certain competitors. With every handshake, every shared anecdote, she tightened the noose around the neck of the company that had betrayed her. But revenge wasn't enough, not entirely. Beneath the fury simmered a desire for redemption, for rebuilding herself stronger than before. So alongside dismantling her former employer's reputation, Mia began laying the groundwork for something entirely her own. Late nights became brainstorming sessions fueled by caffeine and determination. Sketches of logos gave way to detailed business plans, outlines morphed into pitch decks, ideas solidified into actionable steps. Word of her efforts leaked quietly into trusted circles, drawing interest from unexpected quarters. Mentors emerged from the shadows, offering guidance and resources. Former colleagues reached out, eager to join forces once again. Slowly but surely, pieces fell into place, forming a mosaic of opportunity and possibility. Yet amidst the chaos of planning and plotting, doubts crept in. Was she becoming the very thing she despised? Trading integrity for vengeance, ambition for spite? Nights stretched long as she wrestled with these questions, torn between justice and morality. Could she truly build something meaningful while tearing down another? One evening, staring at her reflection in the darkened window, Mia realized the answer lay somewhere in between. Yes, she sought retribution, but not merely for herself. For every person silenced, sidelined, or sacrificed in pursuit of corporate greed. For every dream crushed underfoot by power-hungry executives. For every voice ignored because it dared challenge the status quo. This fight wasn't just hers anymore, it belonged to anyone who had ever been wronged, underestimated, or cast aside. And so, with renewed purpose, Mia pushed forward, weaving threads of vengeance and vision into a tapestry of change. The road ahead promised challenges, obstacles, perhaps even failure. But standing still was no longer an option. Not after everything she'd endured. Not after realizing her worth extended far beyond a single company's approval. In the weeks that followed, Mia transformed. Gone was the timid employee afraid to rock the boat. In her place stood a woman unafraid to confront injustice head-on, to demand accountability, to reshape an industry warped by complacency. Each meeting, each negotiation, each decision carried echoes of the day she was fired, not as a reminder of defeat, but as fuel for transformation. People noticed. Conversations shifted. Doors opened. Opportunities multiplied. Yet through it all, Mia remained grounded, driven not solely by anger but by hope. Hope that one day, workplaces would value humanity over profit, collaboration over competition, authenticity over pretense. Until then, she vowed to keep pushing, keep challenging, keep fighting, for herself, for others, for a future worth striving toward. As winter gave way to spring, signs of progress emerged. Deals closed, partnerships formed, foundations laid. Critics softened, skeptics warmed, allies rallied. Still, the battle raged on, invisible battles waged daily within boardrooms and beyond. But Mia faced them all with unwavering resolve, knowing full well the cost of surrender. For every setback, there was a breakthrough. For every closed door, another opened wider. For every whispered doubt, a chorus of encouragement rose higher. Through grit and grace, she forged ahead, carving out space for innovation, inclusivity, and integrity. Piece by piece, she rebuilt not only her career but also her sense of self-worth, a testament to resilience born from adversity. But the journey was far from over. Challenges loomed large, adversaries dug in deep, uncertainties lingered persistently. Yet Mia embraced them all, armed with lessons learned, scars earned, and dreams nurtured. Whatever lay ahead, she faced it head-on, ready to write her story anew, one chapter at a time. The first major victory came unexpectedly, like a crack of sunlight breaking through storm clouds. A prominent industry publication reached out to Mia for an exclusive interview, a chance to tell her side of the story. At first, she hesitated. Sharing her experience meant exposing vulnerabilities, inviting judgment, and risking backlash. But then she remembered why she started this fight in the first place, not just for herself, but for everyone who had ever felt powerless against corporate tyranny. She agreed to the interview, carefully crafting her words to balance truth with tact. When the article hit newsstands, it sent shockwaves through the business world. The headline alone was enough to grab attention, from public humiliation to industry powerhouse, how one woman is changing the game. Readers devoured every line, captivated by her candor, resilience, and vision. Social media erupted with discussions about workplace ethics, accountability, and empowerment. For the first time in months, Mia felt a glimmer of vindication, not because she sought pity, but because her voice resonated beyond her own pain. The article's impact was immediate and undeniable. Potential clients flooded her inbox, eager to align themselves with someone bold enough to challenge the status quo. Investors called offering backing for her budding venture, intrigued by her audacity and clear sense of purpose. Even former colleagues who had once distanced themselves began reaching out, congratulating her on her courage and asking how they could help. It seemed the tide was turning, slowly but surely, in her favor. But amid the accolades, Mia remained vigilant. Success bred enemies as quickly as allies, and she knew the company that fired her wouldn't take her actions lying down. Sure enough, whispers of retaliation began surfacing, baseless accusations, smear campaigns, attempts to discredit her efforts. Yet instead of cowering, Mia leaned into the chaos. She hired legal counsel, documented everything meticulously, and doubled down on transparency. Every attack became an opportunity to prove her integrity, to show the world exactly what she stood for. Her growing network proved invaluable during these turbulent times. Allies stepped up, defending her publicly and privately, amplifying her message across platforms. Industry veterans praised her tenacity, while younger professionals saw her as a beacon of hope, a living example that speaking truth to power wasn't just possible, but necessary. Slowly but surely, Mia's influence expanded, reshaping conversations around leadership, fairness, and innovation. One pivotal moment arrived when a major competitor approached her with an unconventional proposal, a joint initiative aimed at setting new standards for workplace conduct within the industry. Initially skeptical, Mia listened intently as they outlined their vision, a coalition of companies committed to fostering environments where employees were valued not merely as assets, but as human beings. The irony wasn't lost on her. The very industry that had chewed her up and spit her out was now looking to her for guidance. After careful consideration, and countless late-night debates with trusted advisors, Mia accepted the offer. Together, they drafted a charter outlining principles of equity, respect, and accountability. Companies signing on pledged to undergo regular audits, implement transparent grievance mechanisms, and prioritize employee well-being over profit margins. What started as a small movement soon gained momentum, attracting signatories from across sectors and continents. The coalition became known as the Equity Pledge, and Mia found herself thrust into the role of its unofficial spokesperson. Public appearances followed one after another, keynote speeches at conferences, panel discussions on ethics in business, interviews with global media outlets. Each platform allowed her to share her journey, weaving personal anecdotes with broader calls for systemic change. Audiences hung on her every word, inspired by her authenticity and unwavering determination. Critics dismissed her as idealistic, naive even, but Mia wore those labels like badges of honor. If being naive meant believing in a better future, then so be it. Behind the scenes, however, the grind never stopped. Building a sustainable venture required relentless effort, pitching ideas, negotiating deals, managing teams, troubleshooting crises. There were sleepless nights spent poring over financial reports, tense meetings fraught with conflicting opinions, moments of doubt that threatened to derail progress. Yet through it all, Mia held firm to her guiding principles: honesty, empathy, and excellence. These weren't just buzzwords, they were lifelines keeping her grounded when the pressure mounted. As her reputation grew, so did her resolve to hold her former employer accountable. Though their public image suffered significantly thanks to her earlier efforts, Mia refused to let them off the hook entirely. She continued gathering evidence of unethical practices, documenting instances of exploitation, discrimination, and negligence. Her goal wasn't destruction, it was exposure. By shining a light on their misdeeds, she hoped to spark meaningful reform, both within the company and throughout the industry. Then came the day she received an email from an anonymous whistleblower within the company, a former executive disillusioned by years of complicity. Attached were files detailing decades of misconduct, including falsified reports, illegal labor practices, and cover-ups involving high-profile clients. It was more than Mia could have ever hoped for, a smoking gun capable of bringing the entire operation crashing down. For weeks, she wrestled with what to do next. Publishing the documents outright would undoubtedly cause irreparable damage, potentially ruining lives along the way. On the other hand, ignoring them felt like betrayal, not only of her values but of everyone counting on her to stand up for justice. After consulting with lawyers, ethics experts, and trusted confidants, Mia decided on a middle path. She released select excerpts anonymously, ensuring maximum impact without crossing ethical boundaries. Simultaneously, she filed formal complaints with regulatory bodies, urging them to investigate further. The fallout was swift and severe. Regulatory agencies launched probes, lawsuits piled up, shareholders panicked, and top executives resigned en masse. Within months, the once dominant company teetered on the brink of collapse, its empire crumbling under the weight of its own transgressions. While some celebrated Mia's role in exposing the truth, others accused her of orchestrating a witch hunt. To both groups, she offered the same response: I didn't make them do anything wrong. I simply made sure the world knew the truth. Through it all, Mia never lost sight of her ultimate mission, creating something positive from the ashes of adversity. Her own company flourished, earning recognition for its innovative approach to client relations and employee welfare. Clients praised her team's creativity and dedication, while employees raved about the supportive culture she cultivated. Awards rolled in, validating her hard work and reinforcing her belief that success needn't come at the expense of humanity. Yet perhaps the most profound reward came in quieter moments: mentorship sessions with young professionals navigating their careers, heartfelt messages from strangers inspired by her story, quiet reflections on how far she'd come since that fateful day in the conference room. Each interaction reminded her why she endured the battles, why she fought so fiercely, not for revenge, but for redemption. Not for destruction, but for creation. Still, Mia understood the road ahead wouldn't always be smooth. Change took time, patience, and persistence. Battles won today might resurface tomorrow in different forms. Old adversaries could regroup, new challenges would arise, and doubts would linger persistently. But none of that mattered anymore. She had already proven to herself, if no one else, that standing up for what was right, even when it felt impossible, was worth every ounce of struggle. And so she pressed forward, driven by a vision larger than herself. Piece by piece, brick by brick, she built a legacy rooted in resilience, compassion, and unyielding conviction. Whatever storms lay ahead, whatever obstacles blocked her path, she faced them head-on, armed with lessons learned and dreams nurtured. For Mia, the journey wasn't just about reclaiming her dignity, it was about redefining what success truly meant. And in doing so, she inspired countless others to do the same. Years later, Mia stood on a stage bathed in warm light, accepting an award for industry leadership. The room buzzed with applause as she looked out at the audience, friends, allies, and even former skeptics who now championed her cause. Her company had become a beacon of innovation and integrity, setting new standards for workplaces everywhere. As she held the trophy, Mia smiled, thinking of how far she'd come since that humiliating day. She hadn't just rebuilt her life, she transformed it, and inspired others to do the same. In her speech, she said simply, "This isn't my victory, it's ours. Together, we're proving that courage, compassion, and conviction can change the world." When the ceremony ended, Mia stepped outside into the cool night air. Looking up at the stars, she felt peace, not because she'd won, but because she'd stayed true to herself. And in that moment she knew, no matter what challenges lay ahead, she was ready.